Welcome back to Make Your Move, episode 88. Today's guest is the subject of chapter 39 in The Military Effect, Scott Manthorne's outstanding and best-selling book. Get your copy on Amazon. Today's guest is Sal Filardi, U.S. Army. Sal's a special operator, special forces, pretty smart guy, knows how to do problem identification, and knows all about networking and working in ambiguous situations. We talk a lot about uncomfortableness and how to work through that and how to use it to your advantage. Like many of our guests, Sal can identify multiple mentors along the way who helped him out. He's very thoughtful about unconventional thinking, and we'll talk about his advice to people in their post-military career. Do your best to understand the resources available to you and trust someone new who doesn't know you. Think about that. Here we go with Sal. So here we are. Sal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Hey, glad to have you. Tell us about your connection to Scott Manthorne, the master networker out there. How did he get to you?
Yeah, so I met Scott through a different Scott, Scott McGregor, who is similarly a master connector. But when he reached out and told me about what he was doing with the military effect, I was one of the earlier people that he called. And since knowing him, I've done my best to make sure that he had as much access to whoever he wanted that I could possibly get him in touch with as possible. So I think we have a lot of mutual respect for the ability to build a good network.
So, master networker, what does that mean to you? How did you come to designate certain people as a master networker?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a combination of things, right? I think ultimately the fundamental skill of being able to be a master networker is to be able to find alignment between the goal that you have and the person that you need to help you get you closer to that goal, right? So, and make it mutually beneficial as much as you can, right? So that's a fundamental skill from what I did in the military as a special forces officer. And it's also one of the things that makes Scott just so darn good at what he's doing.
Well, let's talk about special forces and networking. A lot of people think of special forces, and you're a Green Beret, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it implies that there are some soft skills that are a key part of being a special operator. Am I right about that? I'm not one, but
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that there's definitely a common misperception, right? When most people think of, hey, name a Green Beret, the name that comes to mind is John Rambo. But that is just a little tiny piece of the overall toolkit of what Special Forces does. And for those that are unaware, we are the Army and largely the Department of Defense's solution for, we don't really know 100% what the problem is, but if we send this team of 12 Green Berets, they'll be able to create their relationships and ask the questions and create the partnerships that are needed to bring on successive levels of government support if required. Right? So, yeah, I'd say that although the other stuff is really fun and really cool, and I've certainly done my fair share of it, the most important part of being a Green Beret is being able to build trust with somebody who you might not have anything in common with.
So you're connecting dots really from the outset.
Yeah, everything that Special Forces does, if they're successful, is done via this tagline that we have called "by, with, and through." Right. So, like I said, we're organized into groups of 12. Other than maybe like be a really bang up football team, there's not a lot you can do with just 12 people, right? I know football's 11, but neither here nor there. So yeah, if you send only 12 Americans to a whole country or a whole province or a whole region, there's not much that we can do unilaterally or only by ourselves. So all of our success is based on the long-term impacts that can happen based off the people we partnership and, the things we learn from them and teach them. And that's kind of what makes us successful and why the government likes calling us.
What a perfect metaphor for business.
Yeah, it's certainly helped in the interviews to where I'm at now at Greencastle Consulting. Pretty much the same thing, right? Trying to seek that trusted advisor status. It's exactly what you're doing as a Green Beret, and it's exactly what you're doing if you're doing client work as a consultant.
Yeah. So talk about your business right now. What is Greencastle all about, and what's your connection there?
Yeah, so Greencastle is a strategy execution firm. So, and we work with Fortune 500 clients. So, I work at a very large utilities company, and I'm helping them with one of their strategic initiatives to get to their 2030 state, right? I feel like a lot of large organizations have here's where we want to be in 2030, right? A strategically significant change or program that they're trying to get off the ground. And that's what Greencastle does. Once you've decided on your direction, we're the people that come in and help you get stuff done. That's one of our taglines.
And so how did you prepare to take on a role like that?
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy about where I'm at now at Greencastle is that we're 100% vets, to the point where if you go on our website and you haven't served and you click on I haven't served, you'll get a fun surprise. I encourage anyone to go and test that out.
Okay.
But I bring that up to say that Greencastle specifically does a wonderful job of relating the fundamentals of project management, change management, anything ops support, strategy implementation related, to the things that we did in the military. So this is a long time ago. It's about almost a 30-year-old company, but the original founders founded it on the principle of let's teach MDMP, the military decision-making process, to business. And although we've progressed significantly since that time, all of our internal implementation and quality management on how good we see ourselves or how we continue to progress as consultants, it all kind of has tiebacks to the things that we did in the military, or we can explain the value internally to our peers as we're making each other better, or depending on the client, externally to our client, pulling in stories of, hey, this is what the Project Management Institute says, but it also mirrors this thing that I did when I was advising at the national level in a country in Africa, right? It's really a great place to work.
So are you embedded within a customer or a client?
I am, yeah. Which embedded advisory is specifically what Green Berets do. So very, very natural shift for me.
Yeah, yeah. And you hinted at some entrepreneurial endeavors.
Yeah, I love my 9 to 5, but I also do my best to keep a 5 to 9. And generally speaking, that has a lot to do with what I see is a lot of the overlap between professional athletes and elite soldiers, regardless of branch, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, Air Force pararescuemen, or excuse me, yeah, no, I said that right, yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot in common when you leave that sort of community to when you leave professional sports. So in my off time, I spend a lot of my personal time teaching professional athletes about real estate investment, and that's a train the trainer kind of role for me, which again, perfect reflection of what I did in the military. Obviously, I wasn't spending 100% of my time as a real estate investor while also deploying around the world. But training others is definitely something I have a good passion for, and I found this kind of niche opportunity to do it and learn a little bit about something that is important to me as well. So kind of has to do with that. Bringing two groups together that are really unique and have a hard time finding a sense of community after their time in their respective uniforms are done, allowing me to continue to leverage teaching and kind of that by, with, and through methodology that means a lot to me personally. And then some tie-ins to some family history in the construction and raw land development space. So, kind of just neat to learn about that stuff and kind of feel that tie to my father, my grandfather, the people who came before me and spent their careers doing that instead of what I did.
So if you were giving yourself counsel 10 years ago, would you have seen this vision of what you're doing now?
So this is an interesting story. So 10 years is about how long I served. And I actually made a really, really deliberate choice when I decided to accept an active duty commission as a field artillery officer, which is where I started. Because at the time, I was really, really, really enjoying being a general manager, doing full P&L ownership, portfolio company operations for a hospitality group. And man, did I love running bars and restaurants. It was so fun. Felt like all the great stuff that you get about nightlife, but I could still make it to physical training at 6 a.m. the next day, right? Well, most times. Really, it was a blast. And I was going to move up to Chicago, and I was going to continue to work in that industry. And I don't know, I just love taking care of people. So that was like a supernatural fit. And I just got lucky and found it really early. I got a ton of responsibility. Before I could legally drink in the bar that I was managing, right? So, but I made a shift because it was one of those like, man, like you're only going to get one shot at this active duty thing. Like this is not coming back around. Like, potentially you could always go work in hospitality. You could always get a restaurant job if you really wanted to. But yeah, no, 10 years ago, I would have definitely told myself, do it, because that's what I ended up doing. And I never dreamed in a million years of being a Green Beret. Hell, the only thing I knew about Green Berets came out of the Disney movie Operation Dumbo Drop with Danny Glover and Ray Liotta. Like that's what I thought of. I never watched Rambo as a kid, which is a slapstick comedy. Again, if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. But yeah, no, it was something that I think is consistent about Greencastle, consistent about the Army, and what I try to keep consistent in my personal life would be whatever group of people you're in, there's going to be some folks that you look up to, right? It doesn't matter if you're like, if you're on an NFL roster, then you look up to the future Hall of Famers, right? Like there's always that group of like, who's doing that next big thing. And I have consistently tried to put myself in a place where I could, even if I didn't think I was there yet, where I could like push myself to be a little bit more uncomfortable and to work a little bit harder and try to learn from the example of those guys that I really looked up to, and ask a bunch of questions about, dude, why are you doing this? It seems so hard. Like, all of that kind of mental curiosity, and then like kind of like willingness to just, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like, let me go try it. Has consistently paid off. And yeah, I mean, worked 10 years ago, seems to still be working.
Did somebody give you counsel to allow yourself to embrace uncomfortableness?
I mean, there's a certain amount of like, I'm trying to think of how to best describe it. So I think it's a certain amount of like just how you came up, right? And I mentioned my dad, worked in development. He would help universities build, huge multi-millions, multi-tens of millions projects, like new dorms, new science center, new athletic facility, whatever it happens to be. So that's a hard work industry. And my mom's a nurse and has been for 40 years. So that's a very hard working industry. And I think I just came up around a lot of hard workers and equated that, like, the work part is the fun part, right? And the results kind of come naturally from that. Obviously, like, not perfect, right? Like, there's plenty of times where you work hard, you don't get something, or it doesn't turn out the way you want, or as good as you want. And but no, I mean, even at the earliest, like the earliest chapters, I can always kind of think about, like, there's what everybody else is doing, and then if you can, like, put yourself in this other place where you're not just happy with what everybody else is doing. That's probably not the right way to say it, but let me think about that.
How about a shout out to a mentor who made an impact?
Yeah. So I mean, when I think of mentors, and this one might be a little bit of a recency bias, but probably more than any other person that I'm not blood related to, I would say Eric Stetson was like the perfect mentor at the perfect time. And Eric Stetson was my professor of military science my senior year at the University of Illinois. And he's the one who kind of took a look at this guy who doesn't seem all bad, but isn't rated particularly highly, and he's not very involved in the ROTC program. And he took an opportunity to get to know me, and then him and his counterpart at the time, Major Seth Heibel, decided to give me a shot because they saw some of the stuff that I was doing outside of ROTC, and I don't know, I think somewhere in there, they're like, this kid might have what it takes. And I ended up following then Colonel Stetson, now retired Colonel Stetson, into the artillery. He was an artillery officer. So that meant a lot to me. And about a month ago, I was able to give him a big old bear hug as he walked right here into Greencastle during one of our client engagement happy hours, because he's local to this community that we're in outside of Philadelphia as well, and is a friend of the firm. So yeah. And then non-military, I would definitely say it was Brett Lehman, who was my manager at the restaurant, the bar that I worked at when I was in college. Navy vet. Other than the fact that we shared the military in common, I don't think we possibly could have been more opposite. It'd be tough. I mean, I challenge somebody to find an example, but what I loved about Brett, and I wish I was closer with him now, but what I loved about Brett is he's one of the first people who taught me to see past what was going on right in front of you. And specifically, I remember like it was yesterday, a story that Brett and I were having about this group of like very influential, like very social kids from school that we would, they were 21, but like, we would comp them a certain amount of drinks or whatever they were buying pretty much every week, and always like during a shift that we were trying to increase our revenue. And on the surface value, comping drinks during a shift where you're trying to make more money, that doesn't that doesn't make sense. That doesn't line up. But what Brett was one of the first people to show me how to do was Brett was a master of understanding second and third order effects from the decisions that you make. And man, like, if there was an alternate reality, he would have been a hell of a Green Beret. Because lo and behold, we got the coolest kids on campus in first, and they started posting on social media, and then their friends showed up, And then our, establishment was more busy than the other establishments, which had some sort of social proof for the other people that were just walking down the street, deciding where to go, or checking or whatever it was at the time, Facebook, Instagram, on where they were going to spend their, Friday afternoon. And specifically doing that exact strategy, we like one shift that we had no business making a lot of money and 10x our revenue in 30 days, right? Like these really cool, like, man, if not for him, I think I wouldn't have been as resourceful as early and been as courageous to go to like levels significantly higher than me in an organization and pitch an unconventional idea or a new way of thinking about it, or just generally have the confidence to say, what about this? Which is a hell of a thing to have in your back pocket as a consultant as well. So yeah, Eric Stetson for sure. Brett Lehman, second most, conveniently enough, both from my senior year of college.
That's great. Like most people, there's no hesitation in coming up with a name.
Yeah, those are fantastic people.
Sal, how would you counsel somebody leaving the military now who might be questioning what are they capable of doing in the business world?
I mean, there's a lot of smart people out there. And I think that the best advice that I could give would be, do your best to understand the resources that are available to you, right? Like, there's like, for me, I went through an organization called the Honor Foundation. Joe Musselman founded it. I think he's in the book as well. Pretty sure he is. But I went through that organization, and that gave me a team environment focused on the next chapter, where my previous team environment was focused on like, continuity and moving on, and hey, you're leaving and it's a natural time to leave anyway, right? So as one team was kind of coming to a close, being a part of one of those larger transition cohort based things was basically me forming a new team with a new goal that made it very, very cool and timely to be able to talk about what's coming next. And then the caveat to that would be, find somebody you trust that doesn't know and has never known what the heck you do in the military, and get them to introduce you to one of their friends, potentially in an industry that you're considering, and talk to them about, what it is that they do and how what you did might apply. Like just a coffee chat, or you just grab a beer or whatever it is. But I think that, at least anecdotally from like my own experience, there were a ton of opportunities that I thought that I was qualified for because I had all the soft skills. And then I would get into an interview and they would be like, man, you've got none of the hard skills. Like, we don't know how we could possibly hire you if you haven't had 2 years of entry level sales experience, right? And I'm like, 2 years of entry level sales experience? Like, dude, I did multinational partnership agreements on a foreign continent in a different language. Like, I think I got it, right? And I couldn't, like, this is the way everybody thinks about whatever they did, right? Like, oh, I'm a 92 Bravo wheeled vehicle mechanic. What do you mean I can't be a Chevy mechanic, right? Like, it's probably consistent off of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stuff that I had no clue wasn't common knowledge still pops up now, 2.5 years into transition. And it's nobody's fault except your own if you don't communicate value in the way that the other person needs to hear it to give you a shot, right? Like, that's on you, man. So that's the tough part. So yeah, I'd highly encourage, find somebody who thinks that a lieutenant colonel and a colonel are the same thing. Or excuse me, a lieutenant and a lieutenant colonel are the same thing.
Yeah. That's the takeaway. That's on you, man. Sal, I appreciate your thoughts today. Thanks for joining the show.
My pleasure, Gene.